Our Constitution says the right to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Well, guess what? I can't get those meds. I can't see those doctors. I don't have the right to life because without those meds, I'm not here. The two diagnoses I have are SHARON'S disease. The second diagnosis I have is myasthenia gravis. I've had 4 strokes of unknown origin in the last 2 years. They think that there is a bigger disease process that accounts for everything, but still looking.
21 years ago, when I was 37, I was diagnosed with non-Hodgkin's lymphoma. I'm left with chronic pain from the chemotherapy. I have chemo-induced peripheral neuropathy in my left leg.
I got sick in college, and it started out really as a viral illness. And a couple of months later, I started to have cognitive problems. I started to have brain fog, balance issues, memory issues, weakness, and extreme fatigue. I kind of describe it as being hit by a bus or a car or a truck, but from the inside.
I was a registered nurse for 4 years on a med-surg floor, and I was also oncology certified. I worked the first year. I tried really hard. Every month something would go wrong though, and I ended up in the hospital every single month for the first 12 months. I didn't want to acknowledge that I was a patient, that something was wrong with me. I love taking care of people so much that not being able to do it, it hurt.
I was a practicing internal medicine physician. I had to sell my portion of my practice. I was not able to perform as a physician. I mean, I couldn't stand for more than 5 minutes. My brain wasn't working the same. I'm not as sharp. I call it being on the other side of the stethoscope. You lose your power. I'm used to giving the orders, and now I'm waiting on someone else to do it.
I am currently a 4th-year student. I'm in an MD PhD program. I think that my illness has made me more aware of a lot of things that I didn't really know about before I got sick. My experience as a patient has really informed what I want to focus on and what I want to study when I think about medical school.
I didn't want to be that patient. See, she knows. For an example, it's the ER and they come in because they literally have a cold. And I didn't think my symptoms were bad enough. My last stroke, I waited an hour before I went in because I knew they're going to admit me. I don't want to admit what's wrong, but I also don't want them to think I'm coming in for something stupid.
I get you, but you can't diagnose yourself, and that's the hardest lesson to learn. Have to give up that control to somebody else.
The fear for me was just losing the hope of a future. But then once, I was diagnosed, I really identified more with the experience of being a patient because I hadn't really been a medical professional yet. Being able to bring that perspective of being a patient to my medical school studies, that's really how my illness has kind of informed my perspective and what I do.
Chronic illness and management of chronic illness was not taught at all when I was in medical school. No.
I wish it was brought up. No, you're not taught at nursing school. That is a learn as you're on the floor and either you're going to sink or swim.
How many times have I gone to an office? Now I used to teach physical exam. And they'd sit in a chair and I'm on the table and we talk and they say, okay, see you next time. And I'll pull up the report and it'll say lungs clear, heart regular rate and rhythm. I'm like, how do you know? Some doctors don't even lay a finger on you.
I respect the doctor more that tells me I don't know, rather than the doctor that doesn't know that will just throw another med at me to try to just treat a symptom. It's okay not to know.
In medical school, in my first 2 years, which is where you really learn a lot about the disease processes themselves. When I was thinking back on it, I think we mentioned the word disability maybe once, and it wasn't intentional. I think, oh, well, the main important things that people need to know is how to interpret that test result, what to do about, this statistic, this number. Even if there's not a cure, even if there's nothing that I can give to them that's going to help them, just being able to validate what's going on, that's going to help my patient gain potentially more than I could give them through any medical treatment.
When somebody's disabled, you get that disability check. However, our government has deemed it that you were not eligible for Medicare for 2.5 years from the day you became disabled. So you have these patients that are trying to navigate our healthcare system with usually an insurance policy, which is so ridiculously high. How can they navigate this financially to even get the diagnosis? Here we have 2 very large medical insurance companies. They own the hospitals here. They are actively forbidding the other insurance companies' patients from attending their hospitals or they make them out of network. It is such a messed up prospect.
In my opinion, healthcare is a human right. And you're working people. You're contributing to society and you go bankrupt because you got sick. You may have health insurance, but that doesn't mean you have access to care or that it's paid for. It's certainly not. It's bad for the doctors too. You've got liability if you miss something, and if you've got a clock ticking on how long you can see a patient for. That's not how I operate in my office.
Used to think back in the day that the doctors were these very wealthy and well-to-do, and just from the doctors I have worked with at the hospital, those doctors have college loans still in the hundreds of thousands. They aren't that rich doctor coming out of medical school and working.
There's a need for people who have experienced chronic illness to be our nurses, to be our doctors. Medicine is only going to get better when we have people who have experienced chronic illness speaking in our medical profession and changing the way that we do things.
I think I'd ask more questions of, get the science questions down. And then I'd say, what's the hardest thing for you to get through in a day or a week? And how can we help make that easier for you? That question to me anyway would go like a really long way.
I think because they're focused on making the dollar, because you need to be able to do everything and they don't want the nurse that can't. We don't have light duty. I'm trying to use it in a way outside of working for it by helping other patients be their advocate. The neurologist has my number and they give it out to the new patient. In that way, I can at least help someone else.
My personal hope for the future is just that I can continue to find support networks to help me out and that I can get better at maximizing my strengths so that I hopefully become a good doctor.